Big news! CityCast Boise has been nominated for the Best Podcast in Boise Weekly's Best of Boise contest. Now we just need you to make it official by voting for us. Every day we bring you sharp news breakdowns, insider event tips, and the tastiest food recommendations in town, so you never miss what makes our city amazing. And this is your chance to help us shine. Voting's open till May 23rd. It's easy and only takes a few minutes. Just click the link in the show notes. Thanks, everybody. Today on CityCast Boise. When the Great Recession hit, this Boisean turned clipping coupons into a multi-million-dollar company, and now she's joining us with advice for weathering whatever's coming next. We're learning how to tell a real deal from a gimmick, what she wishes she'd done sooner, and how to recession-proof your budget in 2025. It's Wednesday, May 14th. I'm Lindsay Van Allen, and this is what Boise's talking about. Joining me today is Heather Wheeler, co-founder of Crazy Coupon Lady, or KCL for short. Thanks so much for being here today, Heather.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited to chat.
I'm glad you're here, but it is a little stressful, the reason I wanted to have you on. So I'm hearing lots of talk on the news, maybe recession proofing, and that's got me a little worried. I'm sure I'm not the only one. So I'm curious from your perspective, what do you remember most about trying to make ends meet during the Great Recession?
Yes. So during that time is when we started the Crazy Coupon Lady. And it was really, really stressful. I was a stay-at-home mom at the time. My husband was a teacher. And so money was really tight. And, you know, when I heard about this concept of using coupons and kind of stacking your savings, it definitely felt too good to be true. And so I kind of went in as a skeptic, and I really thought that, like, I'm already doing everything I can. I was buying generic brands. I was, shopping at Winco or Walmart because they had the lowest prices. And so I was really skeptical that it was actually going to work. And what we found very quickly is that it was really possible to save 50% on everything we were buying, from groceries to personal items and just all of those, the grocery, everything that's in your grocery basket. And so once I got past like the skepticism, it was really, really exciting and empowering to be able to kind of take control, because it's in times like this and back in 2009 when we were doing this, everything felt so out of control. And so there was something, it's a little silly to use a word like empowering when talking about shopping, but it really was. And it felt like just this momentum that I needed in my personal life to really figure out how we were going to make ends meet. So to me, it was stressful, but also really invigorating to figure out something that would make a meaningful impact in my budget.
Yeah. And I don't think that is silly at all, or wanting that sense of control, because at that same time, I was a brand new parent living on the other side of the state. We didn't have a lot of money. And this is maybe kind of a full circle moment for me, because I started couponing off of Crazy Coupon Lady's website. And it was one of those things where same thing, I was trying to buy, no name brands, nothing, are we just going to have beans and rice? And to be like, oh no, we can buy normal food and actually have, a stock of food. So if we do have a particularly bad month, it doesn't feel like we're going to go hungry. That ability to have a little security in times of uncertainty was invaluable.
Yeah. Yep.
So fingers crossed the recession doesn't happen and we're all just, getting a little amped up for nothing. Hopefully the ship rights itself and everything's fine. But in case that doesn't happen, what were some of the mistakes that you made early on in the Great Recession that you want Gen Z to avoid, or maybe people who are really facing this for the first time to avoid?
So when it comes to couponing specifically, when I started, I felt like these deals were not going to last. And so I remember the first time that I found toothpaste was almost free. And I bought 20 of them, thinking that I would never, this was the deal of a lifetime. And then the next week, toothpaste was free again. And I was like, oh, okay. So I think that was one of the things, is just going slow. This isn't a race that you have to finish really quick. This is a principle that you can use forever. And so kind of understanding that and just figuring out little things that you can do. And honestly, not starting sooner. I was really skeptical. I was like, no, this isn't going to work, or it's going to take too much time. And so I think I waited too long to like kind of learn this world. And the other thing is, there's kind of having this mindset. I always call it a hacker mindset of like, don't accept what a retailer is saying is the price at the shelf, and figure that out everywhere in your life. Like, you don't have to just accept at face value the price of something. There's always a way. And it brings out this idea of like getting really scrappy in a lot of places. And so I had side hustles, I was couponing, like find whatever the thing is. It doesn't necessarily have to be couponing, but find the thing and really go for it. The other thing is, for my story, approaching debt differently was a big part of that. And so as like things were getting really rocky during the Great Recession, we had a lot of debt when you looked at like our income, and that really freaked us out. And so we went all in on paying off our debt, and couponing was a big part of that. For a lot of months, I was spending between $80 and $200 a month on my groceries. That freed up so much to like we stopped spending everywhere we could, and we just tackled our debt. I think that's one of the things, like when I'm talking to my college kids, I'm like, debt is so crippling. There's ways to do it smart, but at the end of the day, if we could just be like really tackling that, and also building up a savings account so that if something happens, you have something to fall back on instead of a credit card. I think it's the thing I'm trying to teach my kids right now, is like, you have so many more options if you can pay off your debt and get that under control.
And that's definitely one of the reasons I wanted to have you on is, unlike the Great Recession of 2008, it seems like we maybe have a little time to prepare here. It doesn't feel so sudden. Like that felt like one day it was fine, the next day the world was not fine. But it seems like we might have a little time to prepare. So if somebody can start, cutting certain things in their budget or saving money and still, be able to get the food you need, the cleaning supplies you need, all these things you need, then that, either can go towards debt or towards saving up a little money in case, layoffs happen or something happens. So that's one of the reasons I wanted to have you on, is we've got a minute. We can make the most of this time as opposed to 2008. And I also really quickly want to say, I 100% agree with you. Once I started couponing and getting these deals, paying full price for something felt like being 100% ripped off. Like for the longest time, it didn't matter what it was. I could not pay full price. That felt like such a ripoff. And so I'm hoping we can find some ways still in 2025 to get those good of deals.
Absolutely.
Okay, Heather, like real talk, real honesty. Do you think it's possible to recession-proof your life in 2025, or is that maybe not a realistic goal?
I really do think it's possible. And I think it's not as complicated as it might sound. And obviously there's unexpected things that we can't always prepare for. But I think, kind of taking back the control, like I said earlier, is so possible. And so I really think that just you have to find the place that you're willing to do a little extra work. And so for, me, I'll sing the praises of couponing all day, every day. And I know it's really overwhelming for people. Like, how do I do this? Where do I start? And for me, it was, I'm going to grab my best friend and I'm going to make her go with me, because it's always more fun to like figure something out with a friend. And I think if you just pick one store and learn the ins and outs of couponing, because it takes a little bit of, time to like figure it all out. And so I always love to suggest a drugstore. There's one CVS in Boise. They have probably the best deals. So if you live close by, that's always my recommendation. Walgreens is great as well, just a little bit more complicated to learn. But then once you get it, it'll feel so easy. And there's a Walgreens on nearly every corner. I also think Fred Meyer is a great one. That's my other favorite store. And so if you live nearby a Fred Meyer, just kind of jump in and like take the chance, figure it out. If it's not for you, that's fine. But at least you tried.
Well, and I will say, as someone who like looked at what you were doing with couponing and got started, there is a bit of a learning curve and a little bit of needing to get organized and think about things in a different way. So I would even say give yourself several weeks or even a couple of months, because it is a very different way of looking at things. And so try not to get discouraged. Like there were times I misunderstood a deal. And so I'm at the checkout and I got the wrong number of products, or I didn't, like that will happen. Try not to get discouraged, especially at first. Once you really figure it out and it just clicks, it is so efficient, and you've got a system going, and it really does save so much money.
Hi, I'm David Plotz, the CEO of CityCast. We've all set health goals: lose weight, exercise more, eat better. But without a plan, those goals often fade. That may have happened to you. It has definitely happened to me. And that's where Prolon comes in. Prolon's 5-day fasting mimicking diet gives you a science-backed, structured approach to stay on track and see real results. And now Prolon is upping their game with the new next-gen 5-day program, delivering the same science-backed benefits in a cleaner, more convenient, and more flavorful format. Prolon is a plant-based nutrition program featuring soups, snacks, and beverages designed to nourish the body while keeping it in a fasting state, triggering cellular rejuvenation and renewal. Next Gen builds on the original Prolon with 100% organic soups and teas, a richer taste, and ready-to-eat meals. Developed over decades at USC's Longevity Institute and backed by top U.S. medical centers, Prolon has been shown to support biological age reduction, metabolic health, skin appearance, fat loss, and energy. I've been doing the 5-day program, and I feel so much better. I really enjoy the tasty energy bars, the snacks and soups, and the fact that I can enjoy meals, even though the calorie count is super low. The flavors and textures are excellent. An olive oil snack here, broccoli and quinoa soup there, hibiscus tea, a yummy nut bar. It's got the benefits of a 5-day fast, but doesn't have the challenge of doing it with pure liquids. It's a system reset. And also, I know this sounds funny, but it's not. The packaging and directions are fantastic, clear, and well organized and thoughtful. For a limited time, you can be first in line to experience the new Next Gen at special savings. Prolon is offering CityCast listeners 15% off site-wide, plus a $40 bonus gift when you subscribe to their 5-day program. Just visit prolonlife.com/city. That's PROLONLIFE.com/city to claim your 15% discount and your bonus gift. prolonlife.com/city. This episode of CityCast is sponsored by Babbel. Learning a new language opens the door to new friends, new cultures, maybe even a whole new life. So why not start the journey today with Babbel? You can start speaking a new language with confidence thanks to Babbel's conversation-based technique. It quickly teaches you useful words and phrases about the things you actually talk about in the real world. There are more than a dozen languages available for you to learn at your own pace, with material tailored to your individual proficiency level, interests, and time availability. I'm David Plotz, CEO of CityCast, and I've been learning Spanish with Babbel and brushing up a teeny bit on my French. But there's also Turkish, Swedish, Dutch, German, many more languages. Babbel's tips and tools for learning a new language are approachable and accessible. It's like having a private tutor in your pocket. I particularly love Babbel's guided conversations, which let me practice real-world conversations. What to say at the doctor's office, how to leave a party, using speech recognition to make sure I'm getting the pronunciation right. Babbel's mobile app and website have real-time feedback, progress trackers, and clear visualizations. They're helping me improve my Spanish in only 10 minutes a day. So get talking with Babbel. I want you to learn another language, so I'm teaming up with Babbel to gift you 55% off subscriptions, but only for CityCast listeners at babbel.com/citycast. Get up to 55% off at babbel.com/citycast. Spelled BABBEL.com/citycast. Babbel.com/citycast. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Okay, Heather, we've been talking about coupons. I don't know how to ask this other than, Is there still money to be saved with like old school paper coupons? I hate saying that. I don't feel old, but it kind of, I think, is more the old school way. Or has everything moved online?
Everything's kind of moved digital. So really you need the store app. Whichever store you're going to coupon at, you need their app. That's where most of the coupons are going to be, which is great. You just like click, they're there. You enter your phone number at checkout, they're going to come off. And then there's a lot of these rebate apps, which weren't around in 2009. And so Ibotta is a great one. Fetch is another really great one. And you're just submitting your receipt after you purchase and they're adding money into your account. And it adds up really fast. And my favorite with those is I use it as kind of a savings account as it builds up. And I'll save, a few $100s every quarter, maybe. And then you can use that for birthday presents for your kid or Christmas. It's my favorite to like save all of that money for Christmas time or whatever it might be. And you can cash it out into your PayPal account, your Venmo, you can get a gift card, all of that. So it really has gone mostly digital. There's still some printable coupons out there. You can get the newspaper if you want, but you really don't need to anymore. You could do it all from your phone.
Okay, as someone who had a whole file cabinet in my house for those coupons, honestly, that sounds great. I'm glad in 2025 it's a little different.
I had a binder. I am not exaggerating. It was this thick. It was probably 5 or 6 inches thick of all of the coupons. And it would take me hours every week to like get all the coupons in there. You don't do that anymore.
No, it was those binders that like the people who like Pokemon or like Magic the Gathering cards. It was the same ones. I just had them full of coupons. I know everyone like made fun of those like on the TLC shows and stuff, but they were really handy. So, but I'm glad it can just be in our phone right now.
It's all in your phone.
One of the hardest things when I got started was trying to figure out what was a good deal and what wasn't actually a good deal. And I did make some mistakes thinking I was getting a good deal. So how do you spot a real deal versus a marketing gimmick?
The biggest thing for me with this is as you start paying attention to the prices, your brain will just kind of become this encyclopedia for pricing on the things that you're buying. And so at this point now, I know that unless toothpaste is 50 cents or less, I'm not going to buy it. And but you just have to start paying attention to what you're paying for things. And some people have like a spreadsheet and that's how their brain works and they like to track it that way. For me, it just kind of lives in my brain. And I just know based on the categories, what I should be paying. And it's getting trickier with inflation and with like regular prices rising so much, like it's hard to keep track of. And so, for some people that spreadsheet is just helpful so that they can kind of keep track, but it doesn't have to be that complicated. I think you just have to become price aware for the things that you're buying, especially as regular prices are rising.
And I do have to say that this does serve a dual purpose because once I was more price savvy, I actually went on The Price is Right and I won. So you can use this in multiple areas of your life.
Is this real?
Yeah. No, I really did.
Oh my gosh, that's my dream. I always joke that I could absolutely go on that show when they like have you pick the prices for different products. Like, I can't believe this story. I love it.
Yeah, no, you need to. It worked. It really did work. It was awesome. I highly recommend it. Once you know the prices, get on The Price is Right.
That's fantastic.
So are there certain stores or chains in Boise? I know we've talked about several, but are there ones where you're like, these are your top 3 or your top 5 in Boise that are better for bargain hunting than others?
So for products like toothpaste, shampoo, laundry detergent, all of those, I do love a drugstore. For food, I think the best is Fred Meyer. Albertsons has great deals also. Those like kind of high price point stores often are running really compelling sales that you can then stack with coupons. Fred Meyer is my favorite, but even Target and Walmart have a lot of really good deals. So any of those would be a great place to start.
Oh, okay, so it seems like it's not limited. Depending on what you're buying, there are several different stores to choose from.
Yeah. Yep.
So where are you going to get deals on things like shoes or clothes?
The thing I'm doing in my personal life right now is actually shopping secondhand. And it feels like we're going to move there more as like we see like tariffs and all of that. It's great for the economy. It's kind of fun because you can hunt through and like find the products. And luckily, like my teenagers love thrift shopping. Like they think it's really fun. I'm finding that a lot of kind of the Gen Z and even younger really like that. And so there's a lot of components there. I think we're going to see a big resurgence for like Poshmark and some of those online secondhand retailers for clothing, and all of the local thrift shops. I think it's a good place, and I think we've gotten rid of a lot of the stigma there. And there's just so many benefits. And a lot of the thrift shops have like one day every week where everything's 50% off. And so we like to kind of shop around those sales.
We had you on at the start of the school season for back to school shopping. And during that interview, you'd mentioned that the off season can be a really great time to find some deals. So in this kind of late spring, early summertime, are there specific deals or sales that it would be advantageous to really look into or take advantage of right now?
Yes, so that's how I shop for all of my kids' clothes, is a season ahead. And so as things are going on clearance for winter, I just finished stocking up, buying a size or two bigger for them for next year. And then, as we head into early summer, that's when, as soon as the kids get out of school, is when we start to see all of the back to school shopping. And so doing that in June and early July is when I'm shopping for all of the back to school. And then for like the clothing for back to school, I usually let them get into school before we start shopping, because after Labor Day, everything is on clearance as far as clothing and shoes go. And so my kids just know that we don't back to school shop before school starts. And sometimes we'll get them that one outfit for the first day of school. But for the most part, I'm saving all of that until after we start seeing all of those sales.
Okay, a huge thing about couponing in the Great Recession was this concept of a stash. And that was a huge lifesaver. That was essential. And once it got on reality TV, couponing was on reality TV, it was always portrayed as these like giant rooms that look like a stock room of a grocery store or a drugstore. But from my experience, having those extra essentials did make it so much easier to stretch my budget every month. So how do you recommend people start building up a small stash of necessities without blowing their budget or panic shopping and buying everything, all the toilet paper they can find?
Yes, there's a difference between panic shopping and we call it a stockpile. And it's really just, if you find a sale, it's 50% off or more, buy a few. Don't buy just one, buy 4 of them or whatever the deal allows for, and start building just a small. You do not need a room in your house dedicated to all of these products. That is not what we're saying at all, but just like part of a closet, and just start stocking all of those things. It's also really fun to watch it grow. And you can do the things like toys and clothing and all of those things as well. We have a toy stash still. And so when my kids get invited to a birthday party, they know to go down to the closet, and like Squishmallows go 90% off at Walgreens, like once a quarter. And so we'll go buy 3 or 4 of them, put them in our stockpile so that we're, keeping it fresh and it's not junk that the kids don't want. And Walmart has toy clearance, Target has toy clearance a few times a year. And, we're really talking right now with the tariffs that toys are going to be one of the things that's hit most. And so thinking about what you're going to need come Christmas time right now before we see all of that. And even, the stock, there's a lot of questions about how much stock we're going to be able to get for toys, electronics, all of those things. And so kind of anticipating what you need is really important too.
So Heather, what's something people, in your perspective, always forget to prepare for financially until it's too late? We have this little bit of time. What is a way that people can financially prepare in case it does get really rocky?
I think it's some of the stuff we talked about at the top, like paying off as much debt as you can, building up and anticipating what you have coming in your life, if that's Christmas, birthdays, like just being aware instead of doing it the week before, which I totally am guilty of sometimes. Like we know there's a lot of things we can prepare for. And then if you just, have that savings account that you're building slowly so that if something happens, you're ready for it, I think is the biggest thing.
Well, Heather, thank you so much. I feel like you have this fantastic insider knowledge about how this works. And I really appreciate you coming on the show and sharing it with us.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure.
That's all for today here on CityCast Boise. If you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to tell your friends about the show. We'll be back tomorrow morning with our 1-star review game, Nature Edition. You won't want to miss it.